First of all, before we get started, you've heard this a few times, but it's very, very important. ISC does an incredible job, don't they? Don't you think so? Yeah? And not only that, it's also been said, but they all have other things to do with their lives. They are full-time students. They have jobs. They have families. I presume they have a social life, although I see no evidence of it because they're always here working. But they do all of that just to make sure that you have the best time possible. They're not paid. It's just because they're wonderful people. So if you see them and they look a little bit overwhelmed, then just ask if you can help or something. If they look like they're going completely crazy, then maybe give them a hug. And for now, let's just give them another round of applause because they really deserve it. So my name is Caleb House. I work at the International Office of the Rectorate here at CTU. And as you can hear, probably I'm not Czech. I am American, like you. I am living in this strange, wonderful, beautiful land. And get comfortable, because I'm here to kind of somehow summarize everything that has been said already. A lot of the things I'm going to say have been mentioned, but I'm pretty sure that at least half of you were only listening with half of your ears. I've been through this before. I know it's a lot of information, and I'm here to try to just kind of summarize everything and really make sure it gets into your head, okay? Especially because I know this week has been very chaotic. It's probably worth taking a moment, just looking around. You've all been planning this for months. Then there was packing. Then there was travel. Then you arrived, and there's lots of new information. But this experience that will probably be one of the most meaningful, memorable experiences of your entire life, that starts right now. Which is pretty cool when you think about it. Try to take a breath for every now and then and just think, wow, I'm here. This is really cool. For most of you, this will be almost entirely an extremely positive experience. But all of you will have a few difficult days, and some of you will have a very difficult time. Don't know who you are. Let's say 1 out of 20. Look to your left, look to your right, look in 18 other directions. One of you is going to have a very difficult time. And for some reason, they asked me to be the one to come here and talk about those difficult times. Okay. In my opinion, you're going to see why I think this in just a moment. The thing that a lot of international students miss when they face challenges is the cultural element. And like it or not, you are about to experience a very cultural time here. I'm going to explain why you don't think that's the case, because the way that we use the word culture is often very, very different. But we're going to talk a little bit about culture shock, and if we have time, some tips about integration with Czech people while you're here, because that's something that is extremely important. Now, let's be honest. I know that you don't think you need this talk. I know that. I've sat in that chair, and I also know that only about 12% of you have lived in a foreign country as an adult. Okay? So you don't know what's about to happen. Right? Let's just start with that. Let's start with the understanding that you don't know what culture shock means because most of you have never really had an opportunity to experience it. Those of you who have lived abroad in a foreign country, according to my survey, it's about 12-13%. Can you raise your hand if, as an adult, not with your parents, but as an adult, you have lived in a foreign country before? Okay? Keep an eye on those people next to you. At certain points in my talk, you'll see them kind of nodding because it really connects with their experience, and it's still going to be really useful for all of you who raised your hand. Don't worry about that. This is a little bit tricky because I know you have a lot of information coming, and your brain is telling you that this is not an important part of the preparation, right? So I'm going to ask you to kind of give me the benefit of the doubt and a couple of the key points. Don't worry, I'll summarize them at the end, but a couple of the key points to try to keep them in your brain for when you need them. Maybe something from this talk will pop up like, oh, maybe that's what's happening. And I'd like you to trust me because I've been through this quite a few times, okay? Over the last 20 years, I've lived in 10 different countries across Asia, Africa, Europe, usually in a perpetual state of culture shock. And I've learned a few things, usually the hard way. And I'd like to pass them on to you, and I hope that they'll be useful. Also, my job and previous jobs, talking with literally thousands of international students, I know that these tips are useful, okay? So let's jump into why you don't think you need culture shock preparation. It has to do with how we understand culture, how we understand shock, and what we mean by preparation. There are three things that we misunderstand about this. Most important thing is, when we're talking about culture, what is culture? I know you're all scientists, you're all engineers, you're in IT, so this is not a question that you get often, but it's a really important one right now because the next 4 months of your life are going to be surrounded by this issue. This will be the air that you breathe. It is for everyone all the time, but when you're in your home culture, you don't realize it. You know, find a fish in the ocean and say, hey, how's the water? And he says, what's water? When you take him out of the water, then he's going to realize that it's a really important part of his life. So we need a definition of culture. Usually what people think about is just what you can see. You know, how people dress maybe, some festivals, traditional performances. The food is an important part of culture, of course. These type of events. Now, is any of that shocking? No, of course not. This is all really pleasant stuff. This is why we travel, which is one of the reasons why no one thinks they're going to experience culture shock. Because when we talk about culture, it's usually this wonderful, pleasant stuff. Everyone in your lives, when they knew that you were going to Prague for a semester, they would say, I'm sure, oh, you're going to have an amazing time. It's going to be so culturally enriching. Make sure you soak up the culture. Now, all of that is cultural, for sure. But what I mean by culture goes much, much deeper than that. And I'm going to show you what I mean. With a list of questions that everyone in this room will answer a little bit or extremely differently because you come from different cultures where the normal reaction to these questions is a little bit different, all right? So even if you're sitting next to someone who's from a neighboring European country, you would not believe how different the reactions can be. Think about how your answer to these questions might be cultural. Who can be your friend? Can boys and girls be just friends together, nothing more? Can a teenager be close friends with an 80-year-old? Can a businessman be friends with a janitor? You know, these types of things. How much time should friends spend together? How close can you stand to someone before they get a little bit uncomfortable? There it is, right there. It's about right in his culture. It's about right here, I think, is the personal space bubble. That's an important one. How long can you make direct eye contact before someone starts to feel a little bit uncomfortable? There it is. That was long, though. Impressive. Yeah, you held it together. That's a really amazing. Okay, who here is from India? I know we have 1 or 2 people from India. Strongest tolerance for direct eye contact I've ever experienced in my life. Like, for most of us, like in Europe, in North America especially, it's about half a second to 1 second is too much. So then you do that thing where you're talking to someone, you look at them, you kind of look down, you look, you kind of blink, you don't want them to be intimidated by that direct eye contact. In India, they don't care. You walk into a restaurant, 5, 6, 7 seconds, direct eye contact, unblinking. They're just looking. My brain tells me this person wants to murder me. Okay? Because in my culture, that's what it would mean, but that's not what they mean. Should you wait for someone to stop talking before you start talking? Spanish. What is food? What isn't food? And when should you eat it? This is the power of culture. I have experienced people in a very rural area offering me a plate of food that for them was a delicacy, and it made me physically sick. I vomited looking at it. Okay? There is nothing physically different between me and them, but when they look at that food, their mouth starts watering because it looks delicious. I look at it and I vomit. All right? The difference, culture. It's just my brain telling me, hell no, that is not food. What is considered to be polite? What is rude? What is your responsibility in life, in your community, and in your family? What is family? What is on time? You're all going to have fun with that. And it's a good example that just because it's cultural doesn't mean that you have to accept it. Culture makes problems, okay? When you put lots of cultures together, and I'm not talking about Czech culture, by the way, that's important. I'm not going to talk very much about Czech culture because your reaction to Czech culture is going to be different for every single one of you. Different things are going to be different things are going to be weird in the Czech culture depending on where you're coming from. Also, Ernesto covered Czech culture perfectly, like he nailed it. Now, I want to give you a filter because most of your time is going to be spent with the people in this room. Dozens of other nationalities every day, everyone approaching life in a slightly different way. And what is on time is something cultural, which means if you're in a study group, one of you always arrives 10 minutes early, Germans, and one of you always arrives half an hour late. You know who you are. Your brain is going to tell you, oh, that person is so rude. They're not rude. They're not trying to be rude. They're not trying to disrespect you. But it does create problems that you have to talk about and find a middle ground of how to solve it, okay? One of the most important messages of this talk is that your brain is often going to tell you, oh, that person is so rude. Because in your home culture, that would be rude behavior. But now, everyone listening? You're the foreigner now. If something seems weird, it's possible because you are the weirdo. Okay? So that's a filter that we need to turn on the brain. Your brain is going to automatically interpret the behavior of the people around you, but that might not be the message that they intend to send, okay? We need to think about the cultural element first and try to solve it, because they're probably not trying to be disrespectful. Now, that person who's always half an hour late, you might talk about it and realize, oh, it's not cultural, they're just a jerk. That can happen too, but first, let's look into the cultural possibility that this is a misunderstanding about what is normal for the two of you. What is a good use of time? What is happiness? Why are you here? What is truth? You might be starting to realize why it was such a serious decision to step out of your culture where everyone had a more or less agreement about how to answer all of these questions, and to step into a different culture where everyone sees these questions a little bit or extremely differently on these and like millions of other questions, all the questions. Everything that your brain does to process the world around you has a cultural element to it. And now you are in an environment where most people around you process those same things a little bit differently. That is what I mean by culture. So the definition that actually helps me when I'm traveling, when I'm having cultural experiences, and by that I mean cultural conflicts, when my brain starts telling me, this is not normal. Why can these people not be normal? It's not right. What are they doing? Well, culture is everything that tells you what is normal. That is one of the two main points that I want you to remember from this talk, okay? That's what I mean when I say culture is the air that you breathe. And you don't realize it when you're in your home culture, but it's going to be important every single day here. Culture is everything that is telling you what is normal. And it's different for everyone around you. Not only the Czechs, but the people that are sitting next to you right now. I don't know if it's possible to read. I love this cartoon. On the left, she's thinking, everything covered but her eyes. What a cruel, male-dominated culture. And on the right, she's thinking, nothing covered but her eyes. What a cruel, male-dominated culture. And I love this because they are both absolutely right. They both live in male-dominated cultures that can be cruel, and the way that they are dressed is very much controlled by the male-dominated element of their culture. The way that they dress is influenced strongly by the men around them. The way that they dress is motivated for exactly the same things, but culturally they have chosen, or the culture has gone in opposite directions. Now, if those two could sit down together and chat about their worldview, the way that they see things, the why they dress the way they do, they would probably find out that they have a lot in common. But immediately, their culture is telling them, oh, that's not normal, and this is why they're doing it. It's a filter that we have to try to get through. Even if they could sit down together and chat about their lives, the woman on the left is never going to convince the other woman to wear a bikini, and she is never going to convince her to wear a burqa. Not going to happen. Our cultures are unique. At a certain age, it is hardwired in. The goal is to not try to become a different culture. The goal is to be aware that that filter exists and that other people are making different choices based on different priorities. Okay. So that's what I mean by culture. The second thing, it gets a little bit quicker, don't worry. The second thing that we misunderstand about this is the word shock. And this is the second reason why no one thinks that they're going to experience culture shock, because we're waiting for a shock. Like, whoop. That was too shocking. I think I turned it off. Wait. We're back. We're back. Okay. It's all part of the plan. Some people were falling asleep. We're back now. Okay. We're waiting for some kind of shock that says, you do what? You have dinner at 10 p.m.? You put fish in a bathtub with your children for several days, and then for Christmas dinner, you murder it? I'm shocked. It's true, by the way. Yeah. Ernesto stole that one from me. That's a classic example of Czech culture shock. It's completely normal for them. Like, they don't know why we find it so weird. Like, they grew up with it. The important thing, though, is these moments do not matter. Okay? Your jaw drops. It's surprising. You call your friends and family. You'll never believe what they do here. And then you move on with your life, and it's a fun little memory. No one is concerned about that. That kind of culture shock does not impact your life. What I want to talk to you about is culture fatigue. Forget the phrase culture shock. It's useless. It's pointless. Culture fatigue is something that happens in one way or another to almost everyone. And it can have a really serious impact on your stay. Okay? Why? Well, let's think about all of the new things that you are experiencing. Okay? You're in a new country. Everything is written in this strange language that you can't understand. People are behaving strangely. Maybe they're making more eye contact or less eye contact than you're used to. There are strange announcements on the public transportation system. You don't know where to find the type of bread that you like in the supermarket. The numbering system in the buildings to find your class is just insane. Like, how are you gonna find your classroom? What does your teacher mean when he says essay? It feels like it means something different than what your professors mean when they say essay. Where can you put your socks so it doesn't annoy your roommate? Why is your roommate always listening to his music at full blast? Doesn't he have any respect for you? Like, every single day, you are absolutely bombarded with new things, which is extremely exciting. And the reason why I have lived in 10 countries in my life is because it is kind of an addictive experience. You learn the maximum amount your brain can handle and process every day. Because everything is new. Everything, whether you realize it is something new or not, your brain is trying to interpret it and process it. How to cross the street. If you don't realize that crossing the street is a little bit different here than your home country, well, that can be the difference between life and death. As Ernesto said, like, if you think that, oh, here, there's a zebra here, and the light is green, okay, and all the cars are stopping, oh, it's fine. What, tram tracks? Oh, no problem. Boom, dead, okay? No Czech ever had to think twice about that. Their brain processed it automatically because when they were 3 years old, their parents screamed at them and it got hardwired into their brain. It's now normal. They do not have to think about it ever again. If you don't think about it consciously and spend mental energy figuring out how to safely cross the street, you could literally die. Okay? And those are the kind of things that your brain has to consciously process every single day. Everything that's on autopilot at your home culture. And this is why culture exists and all of this information exists. It's so you can do things automatically without using mental energy. Now you have to think about everything. And that's exciting, but also exhausting. And the results is that can be overwhelming. Okay? And what happens is, what a lot of people think is depression, homesickness, loneliness, confusion, being overwhelmed at school, all of those things, often that's culture fatigue. Okay? The important thing is to be aware that that's happening and that it's completely normal. There's nothing wrong with you. That is part of the experience. Okay? Let's move quickly on to how to recognize that and what you can do about it. Right? When I say preparation, that's the third thing we misunderstand usually. I'm not going to prepare you so that it doesn't happen. That's impossible. It's just part of the experience. It's part of being a foreigner in a foreign country. Everything is new. Your brain has to work overtime to try to catch up. Okay? This is the experience of international, being a foreigner, especially international students. But I didn't create this. This is social scientists who surveyed tens of thousands of foreigners and foreign students. But it's very consistent with my experience and everyone that I talk to. Right now, you're here. It's a little bit confusing at first, but you're in the honeymoon period when everything is bright and beautiful and the sun is out and it's all a great big adventure. Isn't it wonderful? Enjoy that. Because reality can set in pretty hard that things are confusing, things are difficult. It's difficult to really feel at home. Yeah. And then suddenly, you're in the plunge, where things feel a little bit more overwhelming. You're afraid to go to the shop because that lady at the cash register always yells at you. You don't know why. You were standing on the wrong side of the escalator and someone hit you in the back of the leg with their cane. Yep, that can happen. And one day you wake up and you wonder what the hell you're doing here. It's okay. It's going to be okay. That's completely normal. It does get better. You adapt. You understand what is happening. You learn to behave more in accordance with the Czech culture. Also, you find your own routine. Of course, by the time things start getting really better and you start feeling at home, for most of you, then it's time to go home. It's a very short experience. It goes by very, very quickly. And that's why what I'm going to tell you about dealing with culture fatigue is really important, because if you don't catch it quick, it could kind of put a shadow over weeks and weeks of your experience, and that's a big percentage of your experience here. So, when you experience culture shock, I think I'm missing a slide here. I think you have a sense now of what it means to have culture fatigue. If you feel that you are more tired than you should be, okay, number one sign of culture fatigue. And it's going to happen to you. You're all young, energetic, strong, healthy people. But here's something to look for. It's not because you're partying every night, although that might be a factor. It's not because the classes are too difficult. At some point, you're going to tell yourself, this should be enough sleep for me. I shouldn't be this tired. I shouldn't be this unfocused. It's because your brain is working overtime all the time in the background, okay? It's completely normal. So being really tired, if you hear your brain saying something like, why can't they just be normal? That's the culture fatigue talking, because what's normal for you is not normal for them, and we need to try to put a cultural filter on it and find a solution, blah, 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 blah. But those types of reactions, if you're very impatient, if things are annoying and you kind of realize, I shouldn't be that annoyed by it, but it just really, I can't take it anymore. That's the culture fatigue talking. Okay? What to do about it? Give yourself a break. If you're feeling really tired, you don't have as much energy as you think you should, you probably just need a nap. And it's completely normal that you should need that, again, because you're using a lot more energy than you do at home, okay? So take it easy. Try to rest a little bit, okay? It's going to help. Talk to others about it. You'll realize quickly you're not alone. I don't mean just get together and complain about how weird the checks are. I mean, you can, but it's not going to help that much, you know. But be honest about the things that are difficult about this experience, okay? Or what you're not getting out of it, or what you didn't expect. You'll find that others are going through the same thing, and that's really important to realize that there's nothing wrong with you. This is just part of the experience of learning and growing. The most important thing is to try to find a balance. I think this is the second key point I want you to keep in your heads. So the first one, culture is everything that tells you what is normal. Second one is find a balance. I know that sounds very yoga guru kind of blah, 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 blah. But what I mean is people make mistakes on both extremes. Of coming into this experience, you know this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and they try to go, 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 see everything, do everything, never say no, just do as much as you possibly can every single day. That's great for a 1 or 2 week vacation. It is not sustainable for 4 months, okay? You're going to burn out. I like the energy, but whoa. On the other extreme, there are always people who, from the very beginning, are intimidated by how new things are, can't handle how people react differently, it's scary, and they pretty much stay in their room watching Netflix from their home country and ordering in food from their home country the whole time. And by the time they leave, they never actually lived here, ever. Okay. Those are two extremes. The balance for everyone is going to be different. But it's like trying to run a marathon. If I wake up tomorrow and say, I'm going to run a marathon, I will injure myself very quickly. No way, I'm done. I need to train every day to push myself out of my comfort zone a little bit more every day while respecting my limits and knowing when I need to rest, when I need to take a break, and trying to build up that tolerance to all the new things and all the activities, okay? So at some point, this is why it's one of the two most important points. As often as you can, think about what is the balance that I'm striking with my experience here. It's going to go by like that. What is important to you? Are you achieving that? What is the timeline of the things you really want to achieve while you're here? Because it's very easy to get pulled into a group of friends that then are going to go out drinking every night. And there is nothing, honestly, there is nothing wrong with that. And if that is your goal, you're here and say, my goal is to drink 5 beers at least every single night. If that's your goal, you will probably achieve it, and congratulations, okay? If that's not your goal, it's very easy to get pulled into that and to not achieve the things that you really want to get out of this experience. When you leave, very soon, what will you regret not doing? If you can think of things, figure out the timeline of how you're going to achieve that and make sure that the balance you are striking makes it possible for you to focus on those things. Learn the phrase, I think I need a night by myself tonight. I'll join you tomorrow. Okay, that's a magic phrase. Anyone should be able to understand it. If they don't understand that, if they think that you're being antisocial, well, screw them. You need to take care of yourself. Okay, that's what I mean by balance. Finally, as I said, and I emphasize, for almost all of you, this will be an amazing experience with a few dark days where it's kind of overwhelming and frustrating. You need to think, okay, it's going to get better, it's okay. For a few of you, it could get really dark, because this is an overwhelming experience. And if you're not prepared for that, it can get very, very difficult. If that's happening to you, make sure that you reach out. That is very important because there are so many people who want to help you. This is not supposed to be a solitary experience. This is a social experience. But your teachers, your classmates, ISC, the international office, the counselors, everyone is here to try to help you, but you have to reach out. Okay, we're not going to be going to the doors and making sure that everyone is okay. I wish we could, but we won't. And as the counselor said, better to reach out sooner than later. If you realize that this is much more difficult than you thought, or you're thinking of doing something extreme, or you're thinking of leaving to go home early, talk to us first. All right. I think that I'm going to end it there because Ernesto also covered some great tips about integration. I will only say, if on your list of important things, if it's important for you to make Czech friends, for some of you that's not a priority, that's fine. If that's something that you will regret, leaving after 4 months and not having a Czech friend, you have to make it happen. Okay, let's be very clear about that. It's not fair. It's not nice. You're a guest here. Everyone should be reaching out to you to make you feel welcome, to be friends with you, to blah, 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 blah. It's not going to happen. And it's not the Czechs. Like we like criticize the Czechs a lot about being pretty introverted and shy and like, but I mean, I was a foreign student myself in 3 different countries. The fact is, like, the Czechs are at home. You know, they have their families, their lives, their jobs, their habits, and they know that you're going to leave in 4 months. Why should they emotionally invest in you? If it's important to you, you have to make the first step and the second step and the third step. Reach out to them. You know, in English we say, to make a friend, make them your friend. That's the only way that it's going to happen. So if it's important to you, know that you have to put the energy into it. Whether with your buddy, reach out to them after this week, keep reaching out to them, invite them to do things. The sports clubs, it's challenging because it's mostly in Czech. They can all understand English, they'll help you, but they're probably not going to switch to English. Go there with another friend, so that you have an English-speaking friend with you. And then after the sports event, invite them out for beers. They love that. They will say yes. Final possibility, this is scary, but for the adventurous ones among you, in the cafeteria, you get your food, you'll probably have a group of 5 or 6 English-speaking friends, leave them, go to a table where there's 1 chair open of Czech people, sit down, and in English, it's fine, say, "Hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'm from blah, blah, blah. What do you study here?" That might sound intimidating. It's a little bit scary, and I'm not going to lie to you. Often, they will look at you like a crazy person. But if 1 out of 10 times, one of them responds and you start a conversation and you get their number and you get to know them, well, hey, you just made a Czech friend. And if you look weird and crazy, you know what? In 4 months, you'll be gone. You'll never see them again. Who cares what they think about you? Experiment with who you want to be, okay? This is an opportunity for that. All right, I'm going over time now. Culture is going to be all around you. Everything that happens to you now has a cultural element, whether you like it or not. Try to see it in those terms because it will help you have the right perspective and to remember that what your brain is telling you about what's happening is not necessarily the signals that you should be getting. Just keep that conscious. When you're feeling overwhelmed and tired, completely normal, part of the experience. Try to have a rest, go for a walk, have some quiet time, process things, okay? And I'm going to skip forward here. Be intentional about what you want out of this experience. Make it happen. It will not happen organically. What will happen organically is just going out drinking with friends every night. Nothing wrong with it, but it might not be the best way to make the use of this opportunity. Finally, things will happen that you don't expect. Okay? I was here, we went through 2 years of COVID. That kind of sucked. You will encounter people who are having a bad day. Sometimes you will have a bad day. Sometimes things will be kind of overwhelming. That's okay, as long as often as possible, we try to face those unexpected things with kindness. It's not easy. I don't manage it every day. I still get overwhelmed by the culture and still get frustrated by things that I don't consider to be normal, absolutely. But the goal is to try to face all of those encounters with kindness, and that's going to be a good North Star for this entire experience. You're going to have an amazing time. This is going to be life-changing for so many of you. I'm so excited. I wish I could do it for the first time myself also. There's going to be a break in just a minute. If you want to talk to me about anything you're particularly concerned about with your experience, come down and talk to me. Otherwise, have a fantastic time. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.